Hello and welcome to another episode of Internet Marketing Revealed. My guest today is Mark McGarry. He's an online marketer from Ireland. I think, like a lot of marketers in Mark's position, he's had mixed results. He's had his ups and downs, but I think it's fair to say in the past few months ago, he's made something of a breakthrough. His marketing content has improved. It's got a lot more targeted. He's getting a much better reaction overall from the marketing content that he's putting out there. His sales copy has improved immensely. It's a lot more focused in its message. And he's now creating offers which are being snapped up by the audience he's putting them out in front of. And he's making a lot more sales as a result of that. So that's what I really want to talk to Mark to about today, just to talk to him about his journey overall, the improvements that he's made as he's going along, and if there are any hints and tips that he can share along the way as well. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good stuff that we can talk about in today's episode. So first of all, welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me as well. It's an honor to be here, and hope I can add as much value as I can to the hour we have here and to your audience. And I really like your show as well. It's different to what you usually see out there, kind of marketing related kind of channels on YouTube. Judging by kind of what you've been put up so far, you really kind of go deep and give a lot of value to people, to your audience and all that. So I'm happy to add as much as I can here today.
No problem at all. I'm absolutely delighted to have you on here as a guest today. I think it's interesting what you say there about the other podcast type of things in the marketing space. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing the Internet Marketing Reveal show, was because I thought that it was underserved. We're in a bit of an underserved industry overall. I thought there was a gap there, and I'm glad that I made that start anyway, because things are starting to come together now. Really enjoying the process, getting to chat to loads of great guests at all ends of the spectrum, wherever they are in the journey. So I'm really enjoying it so far. So again, I'm absolutely delighted that you agreed to come onto the show today and to share your story. So why don't we start then at the beginning? And can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up?
Okay, so I'm from Ireland, the south of Ireland. It's called County Cork, right down in Cork Harbour. So I'm pretty much at the southernmost tip of the country. It's actually a bit of a fun fact or boring fact, whichever you want to look at it. It's the second deepest natural harbour in the world after Sydney Harbour. And it's also where the Titanic went to Southampton from, believe it or not. So a bit of a boring fact there.
You learn
but
something new every day.
but as I said, yeah, I basically lived here all my life. Kind of, went to school here, worked all my life here, apart from a few years where I kind of traveled through the States and stuff like that. But I've always called Cork my home, in a small little village called Monkstown. You could literally walk from one end of the town to another within about 20 minutes. So it's really, really small, where everybody knows each other, which can be good and bad, really, I guess. But it's like one of those places where you just don't lock your car at night or lock your doors at night. It's really, really safe. So that's always good. Um, and kind of I'm also into endurance sports. So I've done endurance sports for pretty much the last maybe 10 or 15 years. Um, After I got into my usual kind of trouble you get when you're a teenager in your 20s, you kind of tend to hit that age where you need to grow up a bit and get healthy. So for the last 10 years or so, 15 years, I've been doing endurance sports. Um, and that's kind of a small background about myself personally, I guess.
Okay, that's great. I'm not surprised that you've never moved away from where you live there in Cork, because if I can encourage anybody who's listening to the podcast today to follow Mark on social media, because some of the photos that he posts, just these casual photos that he takes from out of his front window to this stunning harbor type of scene out of his front window, it's incredible. I'm not surprised at all that you've never fancied a move away, because it really is beautiful where you live. It really is.
If I lived in a city, I think I'd go haywire. Mm.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean by that. I mean, I don't live anywhere as picturesque as where you are, but a small village here in South Wales, not quite at the level where you leave your doors open at night, I wouldn't say, but it's the same kind of thing. Small village, everybody, kind of knows their neighbors and all that sort of thing. And I don't think I'd like to move away myself either. I think I'm very much a kind of a small town boy, and I don't think I'd cope even if I lived in Cardiff, which is only
Yeah.
about 20 minutes away from where I live, let alone a really big city. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from with regards to that. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the endurance sports then? Because that's something that you're always posting on social media as well. So that also seems to be a pretty big part of your life overall. How did you get into that?
Okay, so I wasn't always well. I always liked sports, but I wasn't always sporty. Um, Kind of when I was growing up, when I touched on the kind of teenager getting into trouble kind of thing, it was a bit deeper than that. Actually, I was a bit too fond of kind of alcohol and kind of I won't go too far into it, but other stuff. So I spent a lot of years just basically not taking care of myself. And it ended up one morning where I just kind of snapped myself out of it. It's a bit of a cliche, but when I think Tony Robbins says like kind of any major life kind of changes, it seems to happen in an instant. And that's literally what happened to me. I woke up one morning in like a house party, and I won't really go into much detail, but and I kind of looked around and said, what am I doing with my life, right? And the people I'm hanging around with. Okay, so I was always into running, I guess, for a few years, but as I said, I'm still living a very unhealthy life, and at about the age of 28, 29, I got into triathlon and duathlon. Um, Basically I found out I was always pretty good at running, right? So I was kind of ending races pretty well when I was doing triathlons and stuff like that. So I said, look, if I get anywhere good at biking and swimming, I can, start overtaking these people on the running and actually start winning races. So as I said, a couple of years doing the shorter form triathlons, I was okay, but I started training for Ironman back in 2013, which is basically, you're at your, without going into too much detail, it's the longest form kind of triathlon you can do out there. You're out there maybe 10, 11, 12 hours at a race. And it was when I was actually training for the Iron for I was only going to do one Ironman, but ended up being many Ironman, but because I liked it so much. But what I found out about myself when I was out there training, for 6 hours a day on a bike, 3 or 4 hour kind of run sessions, doing that for 6 days a week, basically double sessions. So that's a lot of time we're dedicating to this one race. I found out that I really, really enjoyed it, right? I guess it goes back to my nature being quite introverted. When I was growing up too, I was never into, hanging around with people, as in like big social scenes. I was always a quiet one at a party. I'm sure you probably know yourself if you're kind of anyone out there being from introverted kind of background, where even just, talking to someone for a long time can literally just drain your energy. So that really resonated with me, and I found out that I was really, really, I guess, passionate about it because out there all day long with my own thoughts and kind of lock myself away from that kind of world. Um, and I ended up actually kind of winning races. Kind of, I touched this on this last week in a post actually that took me about 3 years of training and racing with no results. But once I got my first win, I podiumed and won every race in about 3 seasons. I also qualified for the European long distance world championships as well back in 2015. Um, I actually stopped it for a few years just because I was like just due to overtraining and over racing. I had like 2 weeks off and 3 years of training and racing, so I was burnt out completely. But about it took about 4 years off it, but about 2 years got back into it, and I just picked up where I left off, started podiuming in races again, and so that's a bit of a background about that.
Okay. I'm surprised actually that you didn't get into it till you were about 28 or 29, as you said. I just naturally assumed it was something that perhaps you started during your teens and had just carried it on. So yeah, that was a little bit surprising there. I also remember you posted once before on your Facebook profile a photograph or a screenshot of a magazine interview that you'd had as well. So had you taken this on to such a level that this could have been a professional career for you?
Okay. That's actually there, I think, on the wall behind me. There. But that's the magazine's view. So that was a local paper. It's like, like a community newspaper or a community magazine, I should say. So I was kind of getting well known around the space. At the time, I was actually of that magazine interview. I was actually involved in a network marketing company. It's how I actually started in this space through network marketing, and it was a sports nutrition company. So I was kind of half endorsed by them while I was actually promoting them as well. Um, Regards to actually going professional, it was never on the cards for me because especially in that space, to be really in the top kind of 1% or 2%, you want to be kind of at it since you were, 8, 9, 10 years old, especially with swimming. Because if anyone has ever heard like swimming is such a technical sport, it's down to like the millisecond of a difference to be the good, to be in the top 1% and the rest. So it was unfortunately was never on the cards to me. It was one of those things where I've often thought if I had started this 10, 15 years earlier. But again, I always enjoy just being out there and being one of the best amateurs in the country, I guess, racing.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly that even now because when you're posting some of your run details or your ride details on social media, some of the distances that you're doing is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
100-kilometer bike ride just on a Tuesday afternoon or something like that.
yeah,
Absolutely crazy.
it's one of those things where I tell people, but again, it's easy kind of in my mindset where I say the more you do, the easier it gets, and I fully appreciate that if you're not used to it, you might not be able to comprehend it, but it's absolutely true. Same in Ironman racing, like the more you do, the faster you get, and the easier it gets. That's what I kind of, but obviously from a different minds, from a different kind of frame set. Obviously, I can understand how people wouldn't comprehend it, but starting off, I mean, I couldn't run because I used to be an ex-smoker. I used to smoke quite a lot as well, right? Cigarettes. And when I started running and cycling and swimming, I couldn't run a kilometer without actually stopping. And basically, without going into too much, that kind of horrible detail, kind of coughing stuff up and catching my breath. But again, practice makes perfect, just over and over again. And the more distance you do, the more your body adapts to it. And now, yeah, I could go on, 150 kilometers bike ride without even thinking. But back then, if you told me to cycle 20 kilometers when I started, I'd be like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah, you certainly put in the rest of us to shame with those with those posts. Absolutely ridiculous. But you mentioned a little earlier as well that you got into this whole online thing then through the network marketing side of things. Could you give us a bit of info then about how you initially got into that?
Yeah, cool. So basically, another fun fact, I'm actually a qualified physio, even though I never went anywhere. It's one of those things where you do your course for a few years and you start off, everything's rosy. But when it comes to like the business side of it, and trying to rent a place out, the reality soon kind of kicks in, right? So when I was actually doing a physio session on a local soccer team, a guy came in. He was just basically there promoting or trying to hand out free samples, should I say, of his nutrition network marketing company. I won't say who they are, but if you remember a few years ago, they got in a very famous spat with the FTC and a certain hedge fund manager with silver hair. So if anyone wants to check them out, I won't mention who they are. But so he came in with his free samples, and I was, doing a physio session on the guys, and of course, being into endurance sports and sports in general, any type of nutrition, free nutrition people were handing out. I tried a bit of that, of course. I tested out, liked it quite well, so I kind of got back in contact. Originally, I was just taking it for my own training, but again, after that, he kind of talked to me about, look, you can actually make some money out of this. So I said to myself, oh, this will work perfectly because, as a side business primarily, and if I'm using it myself, I can, be the product, all that kind of talk, right? So, so I was doing okay with it. I was making a bit of money with it. Got a few people signed up, but they were the type of company who only talked about the old school methods, the 3-foot rule. We're handing out brochures to people. You get your notepad and you come up with your 100 family and friends. All the kind of dinosaur outdated methods, right? But of course, I quickly burned through that contact list with, of course, as I'm sure you can imagine, the results out of that. They weren't great, shall we say.
Just to interject there, how did you feel then about creating a 100 strong list of your closest friends and family members, and then try to introduce them to a network marketing company, especially if, as you mentioned earlier, you're coming from a very introverted perspective? How did that feel?
It was massive jump out of my comfort zone, of course. Something I never even thought about trying before. Never would have dreamt of doing it. Didn't end well, of course, but it was great exercise in, first of all, getting out of your comfort zone, and second of all, rejection. Because I'm sure you can imagine, probably about 1% of those people actually took me up on buying something. Of course, probably looking back at it, out of pity more than anything else. So, but that's the thing. I guess that's the kind of thing these companies don't tell people, right? Is that you're actually going to have to learn real skills in the modern world, not like 20 years ago. I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people actually leave network marketing, because they get sold this thing that's completely opposite. They find out they actually have to learn proper, marketing techniques and skill techniques, which a lot of these network marketing companies don't actually teach you how to do. So I was actually making some sales with them, believe it or not, but the effort I was putting in, the money for stock I was taking, I was actually, I had to buy stock every month, going to hotel meetings, all that kind of stuff. It just really outweighed the money he's bringing in. So after a couple of years of that, I was kind of burnt out, right? Uh, didn't really turn out, just because I thought that, like, I was coming from a sports background and I knew everything about sports and everything else, and I thought this would be a great marriage of business product with my sports background. But of course, the reality wasn't that way. But it showed me some skills, and it showed, look, there was actually a way to earn money outside of your regular 9 to 5. So and that's when I transitioned on to the online stuff, which I kind of see a lot of people actually a lot of people seem to start in the network marketing side, and after a certain amount of time they seem to transition into the online marketing. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, was there a certain scenario then, or a situation where you thought, right, I'm going to leave the network marketing behind, and now I'm going to actively look into something different
Yeah.
online?
So I think it was like a combination of things, right? Probably those couple of years of where I was putting in way too much work and not seeing any results, and I knew then that like this wasn't a long term play. Going to countless hotel meetings, up to Dublin, which is like maybe 3 hour drive away. You know, going out and constantly being rejected face to face, um, basically being being called all these names by my friends and family, all that kind of stuff, being told like constant failure and everything else. But I think one thing I remember stuck out to me um, when I was in my car broke down, and I literally didn't have the money to get it serviced. Well, I had the money, but it was like my last maybe 80 euros or whatever that was in my account. And I knew then that this wasn't a long term play. At the same time, I'd say about probably the last 3 months of when I was involved with the network marketing side, I I made friends with this person on Facebook. She's not really doing it anymore, but she was involved with one of these the DFY companies. Um, and I kind of got chatting to her, and she said, "Look, there's plenty of people who come from a network marketing background, kind of coming into this company. Are you open to having a look at it?" And that's how I transitioned into the online stuff.
Yeah, so that was the first, I suppose, affiliate marketing program
Yeah.
that you'd got involved with. So, what type of experiences did you have with that then when you first got into it?
So with that, it was one of these, as I said, done a few companies where it's like a value ladder. So I started off with a $7 like trial, went through it was like maybe they had like a 13 or 14 module course or something like that. So went through that in a couple of days, really liked kind of what I saw. Then I kind of hopped onto I think it was like $39 a month basic kind of package. And I started making a couple of sales with that right away. So I said that actually paid for my entrance fee, so to speak, kind of right away within a week. So I thought, yeah, there must be something in this. So then I actually went into they call it like the pro program, the basic or higher ticket program. Um, Started making good few sales with that, but um, I was actually doing some solo ads as well. That's how we got introduced to the traffic. I didn't know any better, right? That's how they ran their traffic, basically through solo ads. Um, so I with solo ads and with my kind of Facebook promoting, I was actually kind of breaking even. And then I suppose within about maybe 3 months after joining, I made my first high ticket sale, and it was more of like a proof of concept than anything else. Show me that, yeah, this can actually be a viable thing if I get rid of the pay traffic option and just go with kind of the organic route and promoting it through Facebook. And yeah, I actually made my first high ticket sale as I was jumping on a plane to Arizona to an event for that company. So it was pretty cool. As I was literally like as I was like leaving the airport to hop on the plane, I just checked my emails, and I made like a $1,500 sale as I was hopping on a plane to Arizona. So I always like telling that story, but that's kind of how we started on the online game.
Yeah, that would have made a great social media post as well, because you always see those types of stories where people are claiming that they're making all of this money by doing various mundane activities, but but to make that sort of income when you're jumping on a plane to Arizona is quite glamorous and interesting in itself there. So you mentioned a little earlier as well that you were getting perhaps a negative reaction from family and friends when you were involved in the network marketing side of things. Now, when you made that switch then to online affiliate marketing, were you getting the same type of reaction, or were things a bit more positive where that was concerned?
To be honest, I tell you this right now. I actually just unfriended all my well, I left one or two kind of close friends and family on Facebook. People who actually, you know, supportive of me. The rest I just got rid of because I kind of came to the realization that this is a business. I want to be running it. You know, have contacts on there who either one will end up it sounds bad I guess to say it this kind of way, but end up being like a customer client, or else someone who I'm going to build a long-term relationship with, who can potentially end up in a business, what's the word, relationship, I guess, like a partnership kind of thing. As I said, left one or two people on there, just primarily just kind of so I can have maybe a few people from the real world, I guess you can say, that I can still have conversation with. But where it goes to kind of on my friends list, got rid of about 99% of the contacts I had on there before I started doing affiliate marketing. I just didn't want the negativity, and because if they were going to say it in real life, right, if they saw me kind of posting the stuff on my wall, they were going to say the same stuff as well. And even when I was promoting network marketing on my Facebook wall, say I post up something about nutrition tips or whatever, and I'd have the hashtag the company who's in or whatever it may be, and all I get back is just like a barrage of like insults. So I knew if I kept the same circle of people on my Facebook wall when I transitioned online marketing, that it was just going to be the same reactions. So I just kind of cut them out.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do actually, because even with something like network marketing, if it was to do with health and fitness, at least that's something that's relatable to other people. They understand the industry to a certain degree. But if you're coming into then online marketing, affiliate marketing, where it's more all about making money online, replacing your job income and that kind of thing, then I think there's overall less awareness of that, and that could then in turn attract a lot more negativity, because the immediate reaction to that is that it's a scam. You're trying to swindle people out of their money and all of that type of negativity. So you'd say then that the easiest way to deal with that type of negativity then is just to cut people out completely, then just
Yeah.
unfriend them and move on.
And like at the end of the day, I mean, like the majority of them are not coming from a bad place, right? It's just who they are, right? You grew up with these people; they were like, being sarcastic. As you know, we come from the same type of humor, right? Kind of Welsh and British and Irish people, right? We have a very self-deprecating sense of humor, so we take the pee out of each other all the time. And that's just the way you are, right? But at the same time, it's not worth having on your wall, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can totally appreciate that. A time and a place for
Exactly,
for jokes. Maybe not when you're trying to make a sale there.
exactly.
So if we just go back then to, you've made this $1,500 commission as you're boarding the plane to go to Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, what challenges did you have then? I mean, why didn't that continue? Why didn't those sales keep flowing for you?
So around the same time, around this time, about a month or so after, I guess, you see him on my wall, right? I think he's Facebook famous at this stage. We found a dog on the side of a road, a little black. We don't know what, I think he's like a Labrador slash Burmese mountain dog mix, but we can't be certain what type of dog he exactly is because we found him on the side of a road. So we bought him in. He's a little puppy, and about 3 months later, he got hit by a car and fractured his spine, and he was basically paraplegic. So he actually was half a millimeter away from severing his spinal cord, so it was quite serious. So I spent about 2.5 years of rehabbing him back from paraplegic to walking and running, and it was a full time job. It was like looking after like a sick patient or something. It was like literally is a 24-hour a day job. Because of course, he's a little puppy, he can't help himself, right? So spent 2.5 years of rehabbing him back. So I guess my physio kind of background came in handy there. Um, I was taking he was getting hydrotherapy and everything for like 2 years in the vets and everything. So I was like doing, I had to do like 3 or 4 times a day. Do his exercises and all this kind of stuff, and just train his nerves back and everything else. And I really couldn't concentrate on anything else. So I basically about 2.5 years out just to get him back to health. Thankfully, he made it. So, um, yeah, I spent those two odd years just kind of in the space. I didn't exit it completely. I was just doing it basically a few hours a week is all I could do, and I was just kind of making a sale here and there. But I did kind of lose touch, I guess, for those couple of years. But once he got back healthy, that's when I dove back in, which would have been about a year and a half ago now, I guess. So
Okay, I mean that sounds like a huge commitment there. To as you say, it's like nursing a patient back to health. Out of interest, did you have any insurance or anything like that for the dog at the
no,
time, or was this a very expensive and lengthy process?
it was actually my sister came home. She lives in Birmingham. She came home to um her husband's actually from Birmingham, but they came back to get married in Ireland, and we were actually going to get him um insured that weekend. But my sister was having a wedding, so we wanted to get that out of the way and then insure him the next weekend. Lo and behold, it was the weekend my sister came back for her wedding. Was when he got knocked down. I think it was like 2 days before her wedding. So that was I actually forgot that until now. So we actually had the wedding. Um, 2 days after this happened, to bring him up to the vets when he got knocked down and everything else. So we said after my sister gets married, we're actually going to insure him. But of course, he got knocked down that weekend. So all in all, the operation in euros was about 2.5K. So in pounds wise, you're talking probably 3.2, maybe 3.3 in around that. Um, Vets bills, hydrotherapy bills, all that on top of it, you're talking easily 7 to 8 thousand, maybe 7 or 8 thousand, I guess, all in would be my guess there over the course of those 3 years.
Wow.
I
Those are
know.
some very serious numbers.
And
Yeah.
one thing actually, which is actually relatable to marketing, a lot of people told me I should put this guy down because he's never going to make it. What are you doing? You're wasting all your money. You're never going to do it. All this kind of stuff. They saw me doing this over the course of those 2-3 years of rehabbing him back, and over time, the same people who told me it's a waste of time, you should put him down. What are you doing? You're crazy. Those very same people now tell me if I'm out, walking around or having a pint or something like that. Those same people tell me, "Wow, it was great what you did. It was absolutely worth it. What an achievement, all that kind of stuff," which is quite funny.
Yeah, I think it's easy to make that type of decision, or to advise on that decision when you're not in that situation yourself. You're not the person that has to make the decision. But Yeah, no doubt you feel like you made the right decision overall then.
Definitely, yeah. No, yeah, after all these years, but yeah, there was some times there where it was touch and go, but of course he's a puppy, right? So he had all this energy as well, and it's all good. All worked out in the end, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So when you made that decision to come back then, now that the dog is fully back to health and you've got some extra time now where you can focus on the online thing rather than nursing him back to health there. What did you try then when you came back?
So when I got back, I just at this stage, that kind of the HighTech company, the DFY company, they're still around, but they're not really that relevant. Last time I kind of checked in on them, they were promoting some type of a what is it, some type of ClickBank kind of or a Cash App opportunity or something like that. So I started back with is it I think you've experienced with traffic domination too, right? So I started back. They're kind of primarily a lower ticket opportunity, but you can sell this free. I can't remember exactly what it is, but free course. So someone opts in and they buy traffic off that. You get a commission. So I started back with that company, and I started making kind of the lower ticket sales. I started having like $300 weeks, $400 weeks. Nothing kind of consistent though. I wasn't breaking that. The I wasn't doing that every week basically, and I kind of hopped in between some kind of low ticket funnels, kind of low ticket products, basically kind of I guess going down a few rabbit holes, right? And then I said, look, I said I'm kind of wasting all my energy and time here. Again, I started buying more solo ads again. So I eventually decided to put an end to that properly. So I went into a kind of higher ticket company again, just to learn the kind of basics of Facebook organic, because I'd seen that the Facebook organic kind of really took off over the last couple of years, and I was done with the paid stuff once and for all. So
So how did you feel about Facebook organic then? When you first got into it, did you think, yeah, this would really suit me? How did you feel about that overall?
Um, again, coming from like an introverted nature background, I did find it quite kind of tiring, quite challenging, I guess, when you're being told to do your daily action plan, follow this formula, and you're going to make tons of money, right? But it doesn't work for everybody, unfortunately. People come in there from different backgrounds. A lot of people who I think I kind of found with the Facebook organic stuff, a lot of people who were entering it who were really taking off. They kind of come from a background where they're used to talking to a lot of people on a daily basis. So I found a lot of people who take off really fast have that type of a background anyway. So it was quite a bit of a struggle for me to actually get my own groove, because I was cold DMing 30 people a day, adding 30 people a day, posting 7 days a week, posting in 5 groups a day. But as I look as you know, and I guess a lot of people watching this will know as well, there's only so long you can do with that before you start taining off or burning out or whatever. So I basically kind of told myself, look, there has to be a better way of doing it, right? I think that was like last February, when I started to. I actually invested in mentorship with another guy who was actually showing you how to create your own stuff and get people in the door that way, rather than actually creating all this content and hoping that'll do its work for you, which doesn't work because you still have to message people and strike up conversations.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot more work involved in the whole Facebook organic thing than I think people initially appreciate. as you mentioned there, you've got to put out content consistently, and on top of that, then you've got to do all of the networking stuff as well, add in the right sort of people, having conversations with people to determine whether or not they're going to be a good fit for the business. And I think that's something that's very underestimated. Just going back there to when you were posting posting content, what do you think is important then when you create content? Are you just pumping this content out and just hoping that some of it resonates, or do you think there's a bit more to it than that, or do you have any tips that you could share?
Yeah, so like it's natural, right? When people start, that's what you do, right? You just throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But the problem with that is that that's what 98% of people are doing anyway. So you end up kind of being in this filter, I guess, of people who are just, kind of deciding what to write that day and just throwing it up without any kind of thought of, the end in mind, I guess you can say. What you want the person who's reading it to actually do with what you're writing, right? And a lot of people will just end up putting up quotes or even copy and pasting other people's stuff and throwing it up. Even you see people like posting up stuff about politics and religion and everything else, like, like they just came up with something that day and they think, and without doing, I guess, any kind of research, asking their audience actually what it is they want, they'll start putting stuff up there. But as I said, like that, you're just falling into the same trap that the majority of people will do, and after a while, that just burns people out, and they end up like just quitting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's important then that you should have your own authentic voice
Or that,
when it
yeah.
comes to producing content? And even if that means going against the grain and just doing the complete opposite to what the majority of other marketers who are promoting similar products are doing?
Yeah, big time. I mean, that's probably the number one thing you can do is to find your own voice. Like, don't be afraid to piss people off, right? Because that's what's going to actually attract who you want to you, right? And it's gonna, I know it's an overused phrase, but it's true. You're going to attract people you want and repel the people you don't. But it's a cliche because it's true, right? Um, as I said, there's too many people out there who like they're afraid to piss people off. They want to please everybody. They want to be seen. They're faking it till they make it. Basically, right? They're not like they're afraid to actually admit. I think I said this recently that 95% of people's lives are actually a car crash most of the time, but they're afraid to admit it. you know. And my life is a car crash a lot of the time, and I, I, I not, I say it straight out. Like my life is a car crash 95% of the time, but I'll say it. You know, like people are afraid to admit the struggles they're going through, but by admitting the struggles they're going through, you're actually inspiring the people reading your stuff because they're going through struggles too, right? We all go through struggles. Life is a struggle. It's like how we deal with it. And it's like you're inspiring people in the same position as you, with the same thoughts as you. And that's who you're going to attract to you. And that's what you want basically. It's better to like would you get now they always say about engagement being a vanity metric. It's another cliche, but again, it's true. Would you like, 200 people giving you a thumbs up, you know, or who are basically don't give a crap about what you're rating. They just want to pump up their own, engagement or whatever, wherever that's even work these days. Or do you want like 10 people who are really going to resonate with your stuff and become one of your fans? I know which one I'd want, right?
Yeah, that's some really good advice there, because I like reading your stuff because there are certain posts that you write and you can tell it's coming from the heart. It's real stuff that I'm sure a lot of other people who are reading it will be able to relate to. And that's how you can grow that raving audience, is just by being yourself. sharing relatable stories, and that's how you're going to uh, attract people to you. So yeah, I really agree with that.
I think it's two sided coin, but like I think why stories work so well is because since the human race has been on the planet, that's how they built civilizations. That's how they built, these relationships. That's how the human race has actually survived, is by telling these stories, and it's deeply embedded in our brains, in our DNA is storytelling. I think that's why it's so powerful.
Yeah, so your content has improved due to you posting stuff from the heart, which is real, it's relatable. And then you decided then that you weren't just going to be an affiliate marketer anymore. You weren't just going to promote other people's things. You were going to start creating your own training courses, your own products. How did all of that come about then?
Yeah. So as I said, I think back in February this year, I got involved with a guy who was in the same company I was talking about a while ago, the same affiliate company. When I got back into it, not the DFI one, and so basically, kind of, um, I kind of resonate with this guy because he's into a lot of like health and fitness and stuff as well. So when I got involved with him, his main kind of message, I guess, is like, start building your own offers. And it's by creating your own stuff. And you know this, like you build your own offers, right? It's by building your offers is how you're going to separate yourself from the 97% of people out there. Because again, it goes back to most people they're afraid to is it are they afraid to just put in the work? Are they afraid of kind of looking like a failure if something doesn't work? And nine times out of ten stuff isn't going to work, by the way. But it's those 1% of things that actually work will take off, right? And what he said to me straight away is by, you know how you're going to separate yourself from everybody else is actually starting creating your own offers, because that's how you're going to create yourself. That's how you're going to, what's the word? That's how you're going to become an authority, say, in the marketplace, by becoming a creator and not a consumer. So there's difference between consuming and creating, right? And by creating, that's when you're going to be seen as a leader and an authority in the marketplace. And it was only until actually getting that kind of one-on-one mentorship is when that actually light bulb, I guess, kind of went off. And so we got to work pretty much in the first week of me joining up with him, of actually starting to go into creating my own offers.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the offer that you created then. Was it also the first offer of your own that you had ever created?
Yeah. So it was like a masterclass on content. Looking back, I actually kind of undervalued it. I only literally just done it at like $20, and he was telling me, "Look, I'm actually underpricing it." But I said, "Look, this is just like a proof of concept, just to see if people will actually be interested in it." And I actually ended up selling it out in the end. So I think I said, look, if it could sell 5 spaces, I'd be absolutely delighted. I ended up selling, like, I think it was 12 in the end, because there was people actually joined it after I had put it on. So I think I sold 12 spots of that, and then about 4 months later, I think I went on to do my second offer on audience attraction. I doubled my price on that, and that actually sold out. I think I sold 16 spots in that. So got about $800 in that. But yeah, it was pretty much straight away after joining with him is when we started doing the offer creation.
Yeah, so it just goes to show then that when you're putting out real, relatable, authentic content like you've been doing over the past few months, people are reading it, they're consuming it, even if they're not necessarily engaging on it and, figuratively patting you on the head and telling you how great the content is. People are always lurking, they're always watching
Oh, big time.
in the shadows, and they're just waiting for you to take that step forward then to show that leadership by making them an offer and they're not going to refuse it, which you've proven not once, but twice. So if you had any advice for anybody who's thinking about creating an offer of their own, what tips could you give them to ensure that they're creating an offer that's going to be taken up?
Okay, so one thing is don't create it until it's validated, right? So what I mean is that if you spend, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, getting whatever, say, video modules or something built out, or getting whatever it is you're into, a funnel built out, or whatever it may be, and you put that to the market and no one bites, that's 4 or 5 weeks wasted, right? So you want to do what's called like a pre-validation. And basically all that is by asking questions, right? Just put out some, put out a couple of, question posts in groups on your page, in your own group, wherever it may be. Um, asking people what are they struggling with. So if you want to do content, for example, ask people like what are like your main 1 to 3 things you struggle on with creating content or something like that. So based on those answers you get back, you can a couple of days later put out another kind of, it's called like a research kind of post. Say if I created, a masterclass on this, or if I created, a course on this, would you be, obviously like put your own kind of spin on it, but along those lines. Then what happens is you get people commenting on that. Then you can strike up a conversation with them, say in Messenger or whatever. Once you get maybe even 1 or 2 spots filled, sold, then you can start creating the actual thing.
Yeah, I think that's some really good advice there because, in effect, you're being paid to create that content because you've done that bit of research and that bit of groundwork to find out if there's actually any interest in that, particular solution, rather than just doing, as you mentioned there, just going all out for 5 or 6 weeks, putting together the best course the world has ever seen. And then you ask the question, does anybody want to buy this? And it's just complete silence. So I think that is actually a much better approach to it, is to ask those questions publicly and just to see if there's any take up there, because you've got nothing to lose
Yeah, all
by
big time.
doing it that way. If nobody's interested, well, so what? Just go back to the drawing board, have another think about
Exactly. Yeah.
a different angle or a different way of approaching solving the same problem, and then go again and see if there's any interest in that time.
And on your point too, that actually before we go on your point about the lurkers, kind of top of my head, I think about 70% of the people who've actually bought my stuff have never commented on a post or a live I've done or whatever. It's only after like, a week or something of promoting this thing when they bought it. And the majority of people have never commented on my stuff. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, you find that's always the way, though, that it's always the people who are lurking in the background who must be silently reading and consuming everything that you put out, but never say a word
Yeah.
until the important part, when
Yeah.
you put out an offer and they think, yeah, that's going to be a
Mm.
good fit for me. I'd love to have that opportunity to work with Mark, and they can't get in your inbox quick enough then to put their names forward uh, for the training. So, I mean, just before we wrap this up, then, what are your plans then for, let's say, the next 12 months? Are you going to stay in organic Facebook, or have you got any plans to move on to other things?
Yeah. So next 12 months, definitely staying in the organic side because, as I said, it's, long-term plan, of course, would be, do the paid ads route, whatever. But it's still I'm still building that foundation, of course. It's a long way to go yet, getting closer, but getting better day by day. Um, Next 12 months is to start building out my own kind of one-on-one kind of coaching, because lately I have taken on people as well, which is quite exciting. Um, so within the next 12 months, I do hope to be kind of going full time. Leave that 9 to 5 behind. But of course, we can never predict the future, I guess. But within the next 12 months, as I said, kind of be mentoring people, I guess, one-on-one, and building more of my own products, which would be the 12-month kind of goal, I guess.
Yep, that sounds good. That sounds good. And you're right what you say there, that you've got those foundations in place now. So it's just
Yeah,
going to be a case of building them out over the next 12 months through the various products and the coaching that you're going to be
yeah,
giving other people. Now, if anybody wants to get in touch with you or wants to find out a bit more about you, I know that you've also got a free gift for our
yeah.
listeners today as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, cool. So basically, I'm offering a free Facebook profile audit. It's really just like a 5-minute video, 3-minute video on your Facebook page, and basically just kind of I send it by video, and it's basically just kind of an audit of the page, just showing what you know what's good about the page, what you can probably make, what tweaks you can use to make it that bit better. So when there's anyone kind of looking at your profile, they'll start getting it, get more kind of eyeballs in their profile and start getting more inbound leads. So that's what I can offer your viewers today.
Yeah, that is a great offer. And judging by the state on some of the profiles that I've seen from people in this industry, they could use an audit or
Yeah.
possibly two. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you then to take advantage of that offer, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Just Facebook, David. It's actually the only social media channel I actually have these days is Facebook. I got rid of Instagram and Snapchat, all that kind of stuff. It's just unwanted kind of dead weight. I thought so. I'm just on Facebook, but my profile is actually a space between the MC, between the Mac and Gary. So it's Mac space Gary. So I'll come up under that. So you can hit me up on Facebook, send me a message, send me a friend request, and we can definitely have a chat.
No problem. So what I'll also do is put a link to your Facebook
Sounds good.
in the show notes as well, just so people don't fall foul of those extra spaces there and they
Yeah.
wind up on somebody else's page. But yeah, I think we'll end things there. Thanks again for joining me on the episode today, Mark. And
Thanks, David.
no doubt I will catch up with you on Facebook very soon as well. Please visit internetmarketingreveal.com and davidwalker.net for more free content. If you need a domain name for your business, visit domainsreveal.com where you'll find more than 1,000 premium domains. And finally, please rate and review this podcast. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.